hypocrisy going on, I gotta say.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be.
So last week, Disney dropped the teaser trailer for their Snow White remake, and well, it didn't go over quite as they'd hoped. With over 850,000 dislikes and only 70,000 likes, the reception has been pretty harsh, and the comment section is full of disappointed fans. What was supposed to be an exciting moment has quickly turned into one of the most talked about trailers in recent memory, and not for the right reasons. Now, it feels like this film has become a symbol of everything people think is wrong with Disney in 2024, and honestly, it's hard to disagree with that. Remember the magic Snow White used to have? Well, it feels like that's been slowly dismantled by a series of questionable decisions. Fans are left scratching their heads, wondering how Disney could possibly mess up a beloved classic like this. Let's break it down. First off, Disney made a big change right from the start. Snow White wouldn't be hanging out with the classic 7 dwarfs anymore. Instead, they swapped them out for a group of magical, diverse creatures. The idea was to modernize the story and avoid old stereotypes, but it ended up causing a whole other problem. When actors with dwarfism pointed out that they were being excluded, Disney made an even bigger change, turning the dwarfs into CGI characters. But honestly, the result feels weird, like it's missing the soul of the original. It's supposed to be a live-action adaptation, but the CGI dwarfs just come off as cheap and lifeless, not to mention kind of disconnected from what made the original story so special. Now, the backlash was already starting to build before the trailer even dropped. But Disney's moves just kept making things worse. A big part of the controversy is Rachel Zegler, who's playing Snow White. At first, fans were cautiously excited about her casting, but things took a turn when she called the original 1937 Snow White extremely dated and said the romance between Snow White and the prince was creepy and weird. Imagine being picked to play one of the most iconic characters in film history, only to publicly trash the very story that made her famous. It rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and fans felt like it was a slap in the face to both the creators and the generations of fans who loved the original. To make matters even worse, Disney seemed to back up Rachel Zegler's controversial comments about the original Snow White. By letting Zegler criticize the classic 1937 film, it almost felt like the studio wasn't respecting its own history or the dedicated fan base that has loved Snow White for generations. It was as if Disney was throwing away its legacy just to appease a certain narrative. What should have been a minor PR issue quickly snowballed into something much bigger. And what could have been a moment to have a more productive conversation about progress and inclusivity instead left even the most loyal Disney fans feeling completely alienated and disillusioned. In an attempt to fix the growing mess, Disney brought Zegler into interviews where she tried to show more support for the project. However, by this point, the damage had already been done. Fans weren't buying her sudden change of heart, especially given the public nature of her earlier criticisms. No, it felt more like damage control than genuine support for the movie. When you have an actress publicly bashing the very source material she's supposed to be representing, it's hard to believe any spin-on that could smooth things over. Zegler, in her attempt to recover her image, only further alienated audiences. Moreover, Zegler's portrayal of Snow White in the teaser trailer was a huge disappointment. The Snow White that many fans remember is characterized by kindness, humility, and innocence. She's warm and caring, someone you could look up to, but in the trailer, that familiar essence of the character was nowhere to be found. Instead of a sweet, gentle princess, Zegler's Snow White came across as smug, condescending, and even a little preachy, completely off track from the beloved character we've all come to know. Fans, who were already on edge because of the controversies surrounding the film, were understandably put off by this shift in tone. Snow White should inspire, but instead, the character in this version felt almost like a villain herself without the dark twist of an evil queen. Honestly, things just keep going downhill when you think about Disney's overall approach to this Snow White remake. The changes that have been made to the film seem less like an effort to refresh a beloved classic and more like a push for political correctness. Many fans feel like Disney is more focused on pushing political agendas and virtue signaling than on telling a compelling, genuine story. Instead of sticking to what made the original Snow White so enduring, Disney has chosen to focus on ticking boxes, particularly with the idea of creating a strong female lead. But here's the thing, strong female characters aren't inherently bad. And Snow White was always meant to be a powerful symbol of kindness and resilience. The issue here is that the depth and relatability that made the original Snow White so special is missing in this version. What Disney has done with this remake doesn't feel like a respectful reimagining of a classic. It feels like an attempt to make a political statement, but it misses the mark entirely. The magic and charm that made the original Snow White a timeless tale have been stripped away in favor of an agenda-driven narrative. The new version tries so hard to be modern that it loses the heart of the story entirely, and it's not just about the changes to the character of Snow White. The entire narrative feels shallow, like it's trying too hard to be something it's not. The real problem lies in the disconnect between what Disney seems to want the film to be and what the fans actually want. What could have been a meaningful, updated adaptation of a classic tale has instead become a platform for political messaging. Of course, it's important to have diverse, strong characters in media, but it's also important to respect the essence of what made a story so beloved in the first place. Disney's Snow White remake is failing to do that, and the fans are feeling it.to top it all off. There's a sense that Disney has lost touch with the very people who have supported it for decades. The studio is alienating longtime fans who grew up with the magic of these stories, and it seems like they're more concerned with appeasing a modern agenda than with staying true to the classic narratives that made Disney great in the first place. At this point, it's hard to see how Disney could recover from this misstep, and fans are left questioning whether the magic of Disney, as we once knew it, is gone for good. What should have been a heartwarming, nostalgic remake of a classic is turning into a cautionary tale about the dangers of trying to please everyone and forgetting the very essence of what made these stories so special in the first place. The changes to Snow White honestly feel like they've missed the point. When Peter Dinklage spoke up about the original portrayal of the 7 dwarfs being outdated, it set off this chain reaction that Disney couldn't really fix. Dinklage meant well, but a lot of fans felt like his stance was a bit hypocritical, especially since he's had fantasy roles in the past. His comments, which were meant to highlight issues of dwarfism, ended up shutting out opportunities for other actors with dwarfism, and don't even get me started on the CGI Dwarfs fans were expecting magic, but we got, well, something that looked really cheap. Then, those set leaks with the magical creatures came out, and fans couldn't help but roast the awkward costumes and lazy designs. Disney tried to deny the leaks at first, but when they admitted they were real, it didn't exactly help their case, and the CGI improvements they promised, didn't really deliver. The biggest letdown, though, is how they've changed Snow White herself. In the original, her kindness and humility were what made her so lovable, but in the trailer and the leaked footage, we're seeing a Snow White who's kind of smug and condescending, even giving the dwarfs a lecture on housework. It's a complete 180 from the warm, gentle Snow White we all know and love. Instead of being this inspirational, kind figure, she kind of comes off as a villain, almost more so than the evil queen herself. And then there's the drama with Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. At first, it seemed like they were getting along fine, but the more we saw, the more it became clear that their personalities just don't mesh. Gadot comes across as professional and polished, while Zegler's behavior seems a bit self-centered. Some fans started to wonder if there was tension behind the scenes, and things got even messier when their political differences, Gadot's support for Israel vs. Zegler's support for Palestine, became public. While they're both entitled to their opinions, all this drama is just overshadowing the film, and when Disney decided to downplay Gadot's role in the teaser, that only added fuel to the fire, making everyone wonder how all this behind-the-scenes stuff affected the movie. At the end of the day, this Snow White remake just feels like a perfect storm of bad decisions, miscasting, tone-deaf marketing, behind-the-scenes drama, and an over-reliance on CGI. It's everything that people criticize about Disney right now. What should have been a beautiful tribute to one of the studio's classics is turning into a cautionary tale of how easily things can go off the rails. Fans aren't just disappointed, they're mourning the magic Disney used to have. Can Disney bounce back from this? Who knows? But one thing's for sure, this remake is quickly becoming one of Disney's most talked about failures.